right.
And we're back.
And we're back. You good on camera? I'm good. Welcome back to the Daddy Issues podcast. I'm Ola. I'm here with the dynamic duo, my partner.
That's good. It's Lito. I'm back. We back.
It's been a little hiatus, and we just wanted to bring in something to start off a new season. Somebody that we hold in high regard. He's the man in the streets, so I just want to prepare y'all.
That's what I heard.
I just want to prepare y'all.
Who we got here?
I got my boy Kwame. Kwame Empowers.
Let's go, Kwame Powers. Let's go. Welcome to Daddy's Issues.
This is an honor, man. It's an honor to be asked to be on the podcast. Two great fathers. Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, we brought him in because I've worked with Kwame in the education sector, and the man has a lot of ideas. He comes from East New York, Brooklyn. I'm gonna let him talk about that, and he is a product of Brooklyn, and he's come back to give back to the kids. So when we started working together, all these ideas about he's played ball, he's a baller, and he's a father. But he has all these ideas, and we always chopped it up about being fathers and our influences about being fathers and what drove him to be the man he is today. So I said, you know what? If he could come by the podcast, it took a while. I had to get in on his busy schedule.
Get in when you fit in, feel me?
And I said, he finally be able to come through. So we're gonna chop it up today about everything dealing with being a father and being a father figure in education.
That's what we do here. So. First thing I want to ask you. So Ola mentioned your name, Kwame Powers. What does that mean? Where did that come from?
Oh man, I don't know. Years ago, that word empowerment just stuck out to me greatly. And when I was creating an organization, I was like, I always wanted to create an organization, to continue to teach basketball privately. I've been coaching basketball for approximately about 20 years, within the school system. So I always wanted to have my own organization, and I named it the Youth Empowerment Experience, because in my organization, I want to, if anything, I want to empower, the student athletes or the young people who are in my who participate, in the organization. So empowerment is so major to me. So I just said, in IG, I'm like, let me keep my first name, Kwame. That's what a lot of people know me by. But then I said the word empowers as a last name, that's kind of like a play on words, because I plan to empower those, so that's why.
That's why you took on that name. So you'll see his hashtag, his username of IG on underneath his name throughout the show. He is a man who is definitely not a gatekeeper. He's someone who will talk to you about an idea, try to find the best resources, always bigging up his community at East New York. What's up with you in East New York? Every time you talk about, it's Kwame's like, that's my hood, the documentary he's working on,
Well, I tell you this, man, I know that I'm just happy to be here, man, to survive East New York. At a time where I was growing up, many of my friends, it's the I hate to say it, but we've heard it plenty of times, either dead or in jail. Yeah. I've lost a number of friends through mental illness as well. Yeah. So I'm just happy to survive it, So, they say never forget where you come from. So, I know people who are not even, they don't always wave that flag that I'm from East New York, So, but I proudly wave that flag of being from East New York, and that's it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good.
And I've been fortunate actually to, to start my education journey in Brownsville. Brownsville, East New York. It's all a connection. Yeah. And then I became a guidance counselor in East New York, where I met you. So that's I don't know. That might be my purpose. And maybe I've been fortunate to find my purpose so early because I started my work in the school system at 18 years old. So
wow.
Now, it sounds to me like through your own organization, through your profession, you have probably touched and been an influence on so many young people's lives that some of them probably look at you as a father figure. That's what we talk about here.
Yeah, your kids are probably old enough, your students, that they're adults now, and it's like you see the fruits of your labor.
I definitely see that. just from a basketball standpoint, I've seen some of my young people who've come through my program, Division I athletes. Some pro, some have had some time as a pro, and then just some, and most I've seen are just successful. Just survival coming from Brownsville. I'm just so fortunate that, like you said, I've seen fruits of my labor, but I could name multiple students I've been in contact with or who I've helped service along the way in their education journey who've lost their life, rather through gun violence or, suicide or, things of that nature. So, but it's grateful that I could see more success stories. I could speak on more success stories than, negative stories.
Cool, man. So that's Kwame dealing with as being a father figure. So what we always ask when you come on the podcast, who are you a father to?
Oh, I'm a father to my young, I call it a young lioness. Her name is Nala. So young Nala Gaddy just turned 11 years old, a lioness. Her name was definitely influenced from the movie Lion King, so, she's 11 years old, doing great things. She just had an award show, about 2 days ago. So I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy where she is right now as well.
Then I see Gaddy. He said, growing up, you get for graduation, you might get, the Sizzler.
We going
This man is on a jet to Puerto Rico. You know what I'm saying?
Oh wow.
So I said, you got a lot of daddy-daughter time international wise, right?
Well, I'm just happy to, you talk about fathers, great fathers. My brother's a great father, and he, that's my big brother. So, I look up to him greatly. And he invited me on that trip. I was like, wow, this trip is right on target.
Yeah.
It's Father's Day weekend.
Oh yeah.
My daughter's birthday's on Monday. Plus, his child, his son, and his wife. Their birthdays all in the same week, 2 week span. So I thought it was a great family trip. So I'm just fortunate to be able to take my daughter out and do that.
For sure.
Yeah. And okay, so you were father 11 years ago, young Kwame. Let's take you back there, right? What was your moment where you said, "Oh shit, I'm a father"? Like,
oh my God, here's the thing about it. I didn't find the information out that I was going to become a father. I was in basic training.
Oh, so ROTC?
No, basic training. ROTC is I was in ROTC at one point. ROTC is when you're in high school or college.
Yeah.
That's like training to eventually go into the the actual military. But I was in basic training. I was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. First time truly away from home.
Wow.
At like 25 years old, and I get that text message that, you're gonna become a father. And I'm like, wow. And my experience of being in basic training just went up about 10 levels because if you know anything about basic training,
no, I don't know anything. So good.
Well, basic training is intended to create high levels of stress on you, to break you down, to build you up. So not only I'm dealing with the being away from home, the being cursed out by your drill instructors, drill sergeants, the physical fitness, physical activity constantly, the pushing you out of your comfort zone, to really get the best out of you, to make you understand that you can truly be resilient. I now have to have on my mind that I hope my daughter's mother has a safe delivery, has a healthy delivery, has a healthy, that everything is going good, with her as my child is being, developed within her, and I couldn't be there for her, because I was in basic training at that time. So
how long is basic training for?
Basic training, so first it goes like this. First you do your first 10 weeks. So I was away for 10 weeks, close to, well, actually, the basic training is 10 weeks. So basically, I was away for 3 months first, then they send you back for like a week, Christmas break, and then you back going for another 3 months.
Wow, okay.
So that's how it was. When I got back, I think my daughter was born maybe about 3 to 4 weeks after that.
After you got back?
Yep.
Okay.
3 to 4 weeks after that. Just in time for us to have a baby shower.
Just in time to have a baby shower. Yeah. So when was the moment that hit you? Was that the moment when you got the text message? Like, I'm a father.
No. Because remember I told you the basic training.
Yeah.
With basic training, you don't even have that much time to dwell on you becoming a father. You know what I'm saying?
Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right?
Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting cursed out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You. It's just, you getting totally pushed out of your comfort zone.
So when was that moment? Say, oh shit. For me, it was.
I really didn't. So I'm gonna tell you this. I remember. I'm gonna tell you about my baby shower. I remember my baby shower. All my peoples came out. We had an MC, right? But for some reason, the MC didn't make it. So I ended up being like the person on the mic. You know what I'm saying? I had a little bit too much drinks that day. You know what I'm saying?
Your own baby shower.
Exactly. I'm MC. And all you hear on the mic is, shout out to East New York. Or all you hear, I'm actually going to be a father, y'all.
Oh, wow.
Or another thing is, I'm having a daughter. This is bananas, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So these things are me being, really super tipsy on the mic, still realizing still, I don't even think at that moment, I mean, I'm at a high level of excitement, but I don't even think at that moment it really hit me that I'm going to be a father. Like, I think I'm just still talking about it. Mm-hmm. But then, I look at my daughter's mother and I'm like, oh no, it's really
about to pop.
Yeah, she's really about to pop. You know what I'm saying?
So it's a combination of emotions and Hennessy talking.
It was no joke, man. And then I tell you, like a week or two after that, I remember us, walking, just helping her, prepare for, the delivery, man. And another thing
what was that like?
It was no joke, man. It was no joke. I'm going to add another piece onto this.
Okay.
So I went into the military still as a para. I was a para at that time. I was a paraprofessional at that time.
Education.
Yeah. I went in saying, I need money to go back to school. You know what I'm saying? I was like, let me go in as a para. You know what I'm saying? But when I come out, I'm going to be prepared, to just embark on taking on, whatever I want to take on into the world. I had an interest in like social work, guidance counselor. I couldn't make my decision. But when I got out of basic training, I said, oh man, I can't be a para, when I get out. I need to really, I need to make some moves to, increase my salary and things of that nature. So then I entered into the Teaching Fellows program. I applied and actually got in the Teaching Fellows program. Mm. So that added an extra level of stress on top of everything, because my daughter was actually born on the same day that the same day of the Teaching Fellows.
Like your start date was
start date.
Like your first class and all that.
My start date.
So you had that first decision of delivery or class.
Yeah.
That ain't go too well.
Yeah.
So looking back at it, you had a delivery. You had your girl. You holding your girl for the first time. What you thinking?
I was actually petrified to hold my daughter the first time. So petrified. I remember asking the nurse, is it okay that since I came from outside, should I not hold her? The nurse looked at me like, you can hold your baby. You know what I'm saying? So I was actually petrified.
What was those thoughts that you were going through?
I honestly, I've never been around a newborn, and kudos to my daughters.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not the youngest.
But you never.
I've never been in a household with a newborn. Like, I've never honestly, I was always, and I've never been like, one of those people who like somebody has a new baby and you're just holding them up and like, I had no experience of that. I literally I had no experience in reference to babies.
So you was
that responsibility just didn't really like it like I didn't have a clue.
Basically.
I just knew that I needed to make more money to be able to provide. That's the number one thing I needed. I knew that I needed to do.
So basic
and be there. I needed to be be present. Be present as much as I can. But I got to provide and I got to continue to progress so that my daughter could have the best lifestyle. That I could support her.
So basic training was basic training for you. Like you never had training with a kid.
Well, I wasn't getting trained.
No, I'm saying like you were learning on the job.
Yes, exactly. I was learning on the job. Kudos to my daughter's mother though, because she was way more prepared than me. I got to give her credit. Shoot, I was lost, but I give her all credit.
I think that's most of us. We not. Our brains are not really wired. Like you said, your objective was to make more money and be there. Like lifting her up and changing diapers. You probably wasn't thinking about any of that stuff.
Man, I had no clue what to do with that. I learned, like you said, I learned on the job. But yeah, that was, and so you asked me about when did it hit me that I was a father. It didn't hit me until I held my daughter. Really, in all honesty, where I was like, wow. Like
she's here, right?
She's here. Like I look at that whole process like this is real life magic. You know what I'm saying? This is real. I'm influenced by the 5%ers. They say the black man is God. And the woman is a goddess. To me, and I feel like magic came out of that whole situation.
So you got there, and then growing up being a girl dad, right? I don't know how tough. Kwame's from East New York, so everybody from East New York tough, right? So how did you change over the last 11 years?
You learn a lot about just females, period. But I'm still learning till this day because I don't. I had a very influential father who was very present. And I had 3 brothers in the household and 1 younger sister. But I also have, I have a couple other sisters, but in the household, 1 younger sister. And I would ask my father about how was it raising my sister, Maya. I got her right here on the chain. And he was like, yo, she was like an angel. Like he was like she just, she never did anything wrong. Like he didn't. And I was looking back on it like I don't ever remember him like scolding her. She was never in trouble. Like the most thing that I remember is that she had some health issues, so he'd like force her to drink water. Mm-hmm. She'd cry, but she'd drink the water. You know what I'm saying? And she wouldn't give him no talk back. Like she was never with us getting punished. Doing push-ups or getting that leather belt. Like that was never her. Yeah. So I can't even. Being that I've never seen my sister truly get disciplined it's like start from scratch. I really did. I'd really, being a girl dad is like, to me, it's like, like be delicate. Be delicate. Just constant making adjustments. Like, am I too aggressive? Am I too? Because that's how. When I remember my father. It's like, do it. We didn't test him. We didn't go against what he was saying. And I expect that out of my daughter, but that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as she turns into a teenager, you same way. Your daughter's about to be 10. She's 11.
About the same age, yeah.
So y'all have that conversation, like.
No, it's like you said, you try to be delicate. But also, so one thing my daughter said about me, she said you're fair, and that's like the best thing she could say. Like I'm not a pushover, but I'm not super strict either. I try to be right in the middle, give you what you want sometimes, give you what you need all the times, and I'm playing off the energy you give me. If you behave, we good. We could do whatever. But if you're not behaving, we gotta take stuff away. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. My daughter, it's interesting because my father, I feel like fathers, you have to be okay with being a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? So
really,
yeah, I that's just how I see it. My father, He had no problem being a bad guy.
You're going to see.
No, here's the thing. I say, because it's a girl, it seems like, and especially growing up with my sister and my father, yeah, he was definitely the bad guy, but I think that was more personal decisions. But like, she tends to be daddy's little girl, right? And it's like, she looks at her sometimes as, she didn't let me go over to daddy and be a little soft. But I'm not really soft. I'm very direct. And I guess, I'm fair. Like, I explain things a little more. And I guess coming from daddy's voice, yeah, you hear more stern. She tests her a lot more. But yeah, I see that, you got to be stern. But she kind of understands me more. You know what I'm saying?
I think
three.
I think what he means, like, there's going to be time to discipline, right?
Yeah.
And she gonna, like, mom is gonna say something, she might laugh at her.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, right. So it's like whatever, like, get out of here. But if you say it,
yeah,
it's gonna be totally different.
And I'm okay with that because I know I'm the last line of defense.
Yeah.
I'm daddy. You know.
I would say also is that being a father, I mean a mother too, but being a parent, is it's all about the lessons that you have to give your children, and I feel like some of those lessons, a lot of those lessons are gonna make that child uncomfortable, and you have to be, you have to accept that your child is going to be uncomfortable, but it's for the overall good of them learning, because I think our role as parents is to prepare them to be independent.
Oh yeah.
It's not to prepare them to be attached to us forever.
Yeah.
I think you actually might be failing as a parent if
Yeah.
you're preparing them to be attached to you forever. We have to prepare them to one day have their own house, one day have their own family, one day make their own money, when they make their own decisions, good decisions at that. So when I say being a bad guy, is that there's going to be a lot of times where I'm going to push you to be uncomfortable to get that lesson. Yeah.
So okay, so yeah, so as you enter these teenage years, right, for your daughter, how are you preparing to be the father? Maybe you're gonna be the same father, maybe this and that. Is there anything you're seeing now?
So, I'm gonna tell you this. When I was a kid, my father used to do stuff like this. He used to it'd be me, my brothers, and my sister probably in the car. We would see somebody strung out on drugs on the corner, like, and the dope fiend leaning. Mm-hmm. My father pull over the car, and he'd be like, "Let's look at this guy." He's like, "You don't ever want to be like this person. Look at them." He's like, "Don't," and a lot of the things that I do, teaching you, that it might make you uncomfortable. You might be upset with me, but it's to prepare you not to become that person. My father, my father and my mother, I give, my father and my mother, I couldn't be the product I am without both parents, pouring into us, but it's the exposure, and sometimes that exposure really gets you out of your comfort zone. I quoting my father used to always says, when you get out of your comfort zone, that's when you really start to see who you can become and the greatness that lives inside of you, because if you can still execute while you're uncomfortable, then that means you've really learned from, whatever that was that made you uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's the only way to grow, is to be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
If you're doing the same things over and over again, nothing's ever going to change. You're not going to get better at anything. Only way to grow is to be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you talked about, some of the lessons you learned, and you brought up your father, right? I've met your father before he passed a couple times. He did a play at the school, and it seemed like that was like, he set you up real nice, like you said, to be independent, to be a father, maybe a grandfather one day. Can you talk about the father figures with your father and others in your life, and how they influence Kwame?
Oh, definitely. I was blessed to have, like you said, multiple men who really were father figures to me. My uncle, he's he's my godfather, actually. My father's first cousin. He's a major. My father's no longer here. He passed away, but it's like my father chose the right person to like, if I'm not here, when I'm not here, I'm gonna he's gonna continue to guide you, So I would say definitely him. And then other people, I met a good brother through basketball. He's actually the same age as my father, and I grew up playing basketball in the parks, and I would say for about 20 years I'd go at least 5-6 times a week, and we'd go play basketball. And when you play basketball, it's funny, on the basketball court. You might start off as a kid, you on this court far to the left.
Yeah.
You're
a scrub.
You're a scrub. You're
work
learning. That's
your
where the
way
young
up.
guys is at. Then you move to the next court.
Yeah.
Where you're getting a little better. You got guys a little older. But then when you make it to the court with the
A-court.
adults,
Yeah.
A-court.
you make it to the court with the adults.
Yeah.
That means you can play with us.
Yep.
So I was fortunate to develop a relationship with a good brother. Same age as my father, you know what I'm saying? And we just developed a bond. So me and him, like, as well, he gives me a call about a couple times a week, drops some gems on me of how to be a better father, and how to work throughout this world, He's another one that was good for me. And then my brother, I have an older brother, my older brother, he's, he was a father before me, and I observe him, learn a lot from him. And then I have friends, like I'm like in my closest friend group, I'm the youngest one. They all got me about 2-3 years, and most of them are fathers, so I pick up a lot of gems from them as well.
So you got a lot of father figures.
A lot of like a support system.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
A group of people that
Definitely.
you can lean on and
Definitely.
ask questions and
I
get
forgot
advice
one
from.
guy too. When I started my career, I developed a good relationship with another gentleman he's even older than my father, but he has 2 daughters, and he used to tell me so much stuff. Until this day, I still reach out to him. He drops gems to me, So, I've been blessed to understand that, elders, respect your elders, and you don't know everything, older, even Allaby, I holler at you all the time, asking for advice and things like that, so I'm just appreciate that. I don't know how I learned that from young to be humble and ask for advice and things of that nature, but that came about, I'm blessed for that.
It seems like you. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It seems like you you're not a know-it-all, so you've embraced being a student from your father down to your uncles and some basketball guys, father figures and stuff like that. And now, do you feel like you're the not OG, you becoming an OG father figure to other guys, or do you give it?
I do tell, I definitely tell young guys coming up who, about to have a child or had a child early on. I try to definitely give them some gems, to avoid some of the things that stresses that I've faced, being a young father. So definitely, I always tell them, just, as you become a father, better start thinking abundantly, because it's no longer about you. You gotta think abundantly, man. Think about multiple streams of income, or else you're gonna be in a struggle for a long time. Think about how you could gain, further build on your finances in multiple ways. That might be one of the greatest gems that I've learned, growing up. That definitely, you got a family, you got a child, even for yourself. Think about multiple ways you can gain some income, not just one. So.
Okay. Being a father who is not in a relationship with his mom, right? And we're not a relationship show, but I want to get a perspective of being a co-parent perspective. Let me ask, any challenges on being a girl dad, but not being in the household?
Oh, that's a major challenge. That's a major challenge. You're always worried about the safety of your daughter. You always are. But one thing I can say is that I, attempt to do is whenever my daughter enters into a new space, whether it's school or a program or something, I want to do my best to make it known that she has her father around. I want to shake the hands of the founders. I want to shake the hands of the people who are in direct contact with her, so that they know that, she has an active father who's paying attention. Because I'm always concerned about predators. But having a young girl, the the best thing to do having a young girl is that you got to teach her that first line of self-defense is herself.
Yeah.
And I learned that from my father. We was in martial arts classes, early on for a long period of time. He was always concerned about, our well-being in reference to, self-defense. So my daughter, early on, I told her how to knee somebody in the nuts. You know what I'm saying?
Say it again, because I cut you off.
Knee somebody in the nuts, man. Knee somebody in the nuts. Always look around. Don't let nobody, touch on you. Always, pay attention. Pay attention. And her mouth. I mean, she got that mouth.
She got that mouth.
She got, being from Brooklyn, you're gonna
yeah.
naturally develop that lethal mouth. That's a defense mechanism as well.
Yeah,
You got to teach.
That's the one. Don't mess with her. Her mouth is crazy.
You got to teach your kids, how to, defend themselves in multiple ways. I remember my father, he took me and my brothers in the basement, and even my sister, he took us in the basement, because we used to hang outside. We neighborhood kids, be outside. And he would tell us, he literally taught us how to curse people out. He'd be like, somebody get in front of you, you scream at him, you say, get away from me, get the F away from me, he's like, he literally taught us how to curse people out.
Oh, so your stranger danger was a little different.
I mean, yo, man.
You gotta get people to turn around and be like, yo, what's this kid talking about?
Yeah,
right?
you gotta, there's multiple ways how to defend yourself. So those are the type of gems I try to teach my daughter. She's the first line of self-defense.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Her parents are not going to always be around, her loved ones, period, so she's her first line of self-defense.
And I know Mr. Jiu-Jitsu.
Taekwondo. My daughter's in Taekwondo. She'd be a black belt.
Oh, that's
soon.
fire.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And started, I didn't really think about it the way you did, where I'm like, yeah, you got to be able to defend yourself. It was just like on a whim. Her mom was walking past the studio, and they just walked inside and signed her up. And she loves it. She, goes multiple times a week, about to be a black belt.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. She ain't going to beat you up, right?
No, it's funny. One time I'm like, show me what you've been learning, right? She grabbed me by the collar and almost took me down. I was like, all right. The money's well spent.
That's what's up. No, that's what's up.
Yeah,
man.
that's good. So that's one of the challenges, and that's a good one because you didn't think about that. You're not home with her every night. So in your mind, because I know when I travel, it's like now that it's like, I'm not here. We safe. I think we safe, but I want to speak to her all the time, and she's now can talk to me, have a conversation. So that's actually a good one. Then think about that. It has nothing to do with the relationship. It's more of, I'm not, you thinking daddy's in the next room or daddy's this. No, but daddy's there. Because I make sure I'm at every parent meeting. I'm at every this and I'm every that. That's a good one, man.
Well, I would say, like I said, man, the time I do, it's unfortunate that I'm co-parenting, and that's one of the hardest things. That's one of the hardest things in the world to do.
I was gonna say that it might, relationship. I always say this to people: your relationship with your thing is not that it has nothing to do with your child, but if you ain't there at all, like Joe Budden was saying the other day about deadbeat dads, they got it good. That's not you. Yeah. You in there, but it's just y'all two ain't together. But you up in the source. Co-parenting, go ahead.
Co-parenting is one of the hardest things, man. And I'm not gonna speak too much on that.
No, it's not a relationship thing.
I could just say it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And that's a constant work in progress. Just like parenting.
That's what I'm saying.
Adjust, readjust, communicate. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you come calm. It's just a constant work.
And I would say, just like in marriage, like that, constant work. So it's like you're married without being married. I'll just leave it at that.
They're connected, right?
They're connected through the child,
right?
But but it's a constant give and take. It's a this, it's a that. So we'll leave it at that. Right. So
on a lighter note, your daughter's 11 years old. Growing up, like, what was your favorite age that she was that you
favorite that she was?
Yeah.
Oh man, I used to teach my daughter basketball. I love that time. So it's funny, man. It's funny because I never forced that on her. She just used to see me watching it. I'd playing games, and and matter of fact, I'd have my basketball program. She'd be in the basketball program working out.
I remember
but
that.
then she'd also like she see me giving instructions. She comes stand up next to me. She's trying to give instructions like she's the she's running the program. She's the coach. I love that time. That time, because I never pushed it on her, but then she wanted to. She wanted to do it. And she was allowing me to train her. Me and her were doing like 2-3 workouts a day. And it was like we were moving. Like there was a time where she was working out like 7 a.m. She worked out with a legendary basketball trainer, my man Mike Senior. She'd work out with him.
Oh yeah,
she'd work out with him.
This man.
Man. She'd work out with him, and then she was actually on the she was on the bench, her basketball team, and at PS11. Like that was a great time. It was. And I know. Here's one thing that I know. She's never gonna forget that time, even if she don't remember.
Yeah.
Like the I want to say
she might not remember the day-to-day, the detail, but the actual feeling of
the work, the work ethic, some of that.
Like when we was in biddies and stuff like that. I remember my first time playing at Jackie Rob's. I was trash, but I remember like learning basketball and being part of a team.
Yeah,
like that stuff stuck with me. I remember the day-to-day, the this to that, the shit talk and all that. But that she's gonna remember.
Yeah, she's gonna that she's gonna come back to that one day.
Yeah.
Like that level of athleticism to be pushed like that. She's going to come back to that one day. So I love that time. I got, and luckily I got pictures of that time.
Yeah,
so she can't ever deny it.
Yeah.
I got pictures of her smiling at that time. So she can't ever deny it.
Now, not as much.
Not as much. Now, but it's all good, man. I have to, like I said, as parents, we just got to prepare them to become independent.
Yeah.
So as she becomes more independent and making her own decisions, I'm just gonna sit back, and then when she wants my support and in the area that she has interest in, I'm gonna support her. So I'm just gonna, she ain't into basketball right now, and I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
I'm not driving myself crazy about that.
He says, we grew up, basketball. I have a son now, so it's like, but he always says they're gonna be their own people, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
they're gonna be their own person.
Yeah, my daughter's 10. She's about to be 10. She's like 5'3". She's tall, taller than all the boys in her class. And I'm like, you gotta play basketball. She's like, nah, I'm not playing. But she's an actress. Like she don't care.
Yeah,
I don't give about none of that. But they're gonna become their own person, and now you see like they're becoming their transition to women, right? Mm-hmm. So, wow, like it's a whole transition. So now, Gaddy, like we said, about to be a teenage girl. These are a little different. How you look at money different when your child was born? Like, you talked about that. You say you tell guys all the time. Multiple streams of income. Like,
so it's funny. I just try to give my daughter stuff that I wasn't like my daughter. I'm teaching her about business early on.
Yeah.
So the amazing thing, here's another thing that she had her own organic juice business. Nala's pop-up shop. I got footage of that too. I got footage. I got pictures. So she got to remember that. And I've seen her actually, like on her own. Start selling water to her peers.
Oh, she's a hustler.
I saw her. Now she makes iPhone cases. She buys the iPhone case for cheap, and then she buys the little things to put on it to design it, and then she sells it.
Yeah.
She's like, she'll buy it for 98 cents, and then she'll design it, and then she'll sell it for $5. So I'm blessed that I've seen her doing those things. And like I said, man. It's going to be things that we teach out. I learned this early on being an educator. We don't always get to see the fruits of our labor right then and there. It's not instant gratification. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I know that, you know, I know that, you know, being a parent is tough. Being a co-parent is even tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I have to be confident that whatever positive teachings I give her, well, you know, some things are going to be negative too that might stick with her, that might she be exposed, but hopefully way more positive than negative, that she's going to never forget those things, and those things will come back around and show in her life. You know, so that's
It
that.
sounds like she got a entrepreneurial spirit with her juice business,
Yeah.
her iPhone business. Does she? You ever talk about like what she wants to do when she grows up?
Well, I'd say this. My daughter, you know, and you might know this. I don't know how you, but you know, I know, you know, my daughter, she kind of likes to give me one-word answers right now, you know. But and like I said, I have to accept that, you know. So
Now, I be banning words. I be banning words. So what? I picked my daughter from school. I'm like, how was school? Gucci. That's her. That's her thing. Oh, it was Gucci. I'm like, yo, you can't tell me school was Gucci no more. You gotta tell me something. Mm-hmm. But I'll do that. I'll be like, you know, because it was happening for months at a time. I'm like, nah, something's happening at school. You gotta tell me something that happened.
Trying to get her to elaborate,
Yeah,
right?
like
Working hard to get her to elaborate.
What was so Gucci about it? Tell me something. You went to science class today? What y'all doing science? You know?
Yeah. So it's like pulling teeth for me right now.
Yeah.
You know, but like I said, man, I'm confident that later on she'll truly open up to me to express what she wants to do. But I definitely heard her say things about business, and I bought her books early on in reference to business. You know, oh man, it was this great book collection that I remember I purchased. It was like stuff like Renee, the real estate owner, and it was a children's book.
Okay.
Barbara, the barbershop owner. It was like Nancy, the nail technician. Like those little entrepreneurial children's books. I bought that for her early on, you know. So
That's where she got it from.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
you was feeding her that information.
Yeah,
early.
yeah. You know, I'm constantly working at that. You know, because those are things that I didn't learn early on. You know, early on we I don't know about you guys, but during the time that I was being raised, it was like, make sure you get.
To say we old. That's it.
I'm sure he's gonna say the exact same thing I was told. Go ahead.
Make sure you get a good city job.
I knew it. I knew that was coming.
Good city job. You got benefits. Yep. You're gonna retire. But looking, you know, a lot of those teachings from early on, you know, and when I was hearing these things, you know, they still in the struggle. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not knocking anybody because there's a lot of people who are not in the struggle doing that either. Mm-hmm. You know, but and I got a city job. I got a good city job. You know what I'm saying? You got a good city job. So I took the advice. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, but you know, but do more outside of that.
Yeah.
You know, and do more with that funding that you get from that good city job.
Yeah.
You know, and then look how you can gain more income from other places. You know, so that's what I'm constantly, you know, pushing towards her. You know, dare to be different.
Dare to be different. So. That's I think more of our parents was more survival mode. You know, that time my parents are immigrants. They came. It's just like you gotta at least put some roots down, get a good city job, or take. You know, they. It was hard to say go out there and be an entrepreneur and go. It wasn't like this back then with all these references and resources we have to be entrepreneurs and stuff. I think they definitely
they didn't know. They didn't
know, but they just was in survival mode.
Nancy the nail tech. They didn't know about that.
But they definitely put in me to like be someone who will take a chance. My mother's the type, you gonna go to that school with all white children and be uncomfortable because like it's okay to take the bus or the train to school, but there's a school right there, Mom. Like, why can't I go with the rest of the neighborhood school? Nah, I want you to go there because it's gonna push you. It sometimes pushed me a little too much, but it was just more like, no, it's okay to be uncomfortable and this and that, but you know, that she implanted that in us.
You had that experience too from your mother.
Yeah,
my mother did that for us too.
Yeah.
I went to school in the city. I went to school in the city, and I was the only black kid in my class. Then I got another friend. I was like, oh, thank God he's here.
You see,
you know what I'm saying? And me and him was mad. Me and him was super cool.
Yeah, cool.
You know,
like going to high school where they went. When I went, you know, Midwood with them. My sister went there, so it was like it's safe. But she You're talking about crack, 80s crack epidemic. We're going to send my brother to Harlem from Clinton Hill, my sister a year later, who's there a year apart, to Flatbush. Don't know nothing about this stuff, but she knew it was a good school, right? This is a school because they did the high school application. New York is a little different. Most places you go to the neighborhood school, but it was like, all right, we're going to take a chance. Then it's safe because if you know anything about like Nigerian stuff, if that one did it, your cousin, and it was good, you going to do it too. And it don't matter what it is. If you went to a school upstate, you going to that school. If you going to a HBCU, you going to that school. So I'm glad she was able to take chances like that. And now I say, for my kids, it's okay. You can take, because I got your back. I'm daddy, nothing that bad is going to happen where you are going to be left on an island.
So I would say this. I'm going to piggyback off what you said. So my mother was about that. I spent about 3-4 years going to these good schools, in a different environment. It was great exposure. But then my father on the other side was like, don't ever forget where you came from. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, I don't care that this school across the street from your house is a failing school and, there's high dropout rate and it's marked the most dangerous school and all of this stuff. He said, I don't care where you at. He's like, I think Malcolm X said that. It doesn't matter where you at, it's what you do there. So that's what my father constantly pushed on me and pushed on us, I'm sorry. And I'm the man I am today, but I'm a graduate of Thomas Jefferson High School.
Yeah. A
school that was, recognized for only producing negative people.
Yeah.
A whole lineage of, negativity attached to the neighborhood and the school. But I graduated from there and I'm here today, so his words was real as well.
Yeah.
It don't matter where you at, it's what you do there, because, my father was in law enforcement. So he's met plenty of great people who did X amount of years in prison, but they turned out to accomplish great things upon leaving prison or while they were in prison. So that's just one thing that I remember my father taught me.
So you would say, now you're going to obviously, you could try to get into the best schools.
Yeah, I'm definitely, don't get it twisted. My daughter, I don't want, like I said, isn't the goal for us to always do better than, I do not ever want my daughter. I don't, exactly. I don't want my daughter going to any type of, struggling,
fight for your life,
educational, fight for your life situations. I don't want that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So yes.
That's a good thing. So you like you said, Hov did that. So hopefully we don't have to go through that. So, all right. So you say that, you take that, you do all that. So you're a girl dad. Punishment. How did you handle that, or are handling that with punishment? Like I'm not asking, I know you ain't throwing your daughter from wall to wall, getting her beaten and all that, but you grew up a certain way getting punished, right?
You talked about the leather belt and the push-ups in the basement.
Man, some of that stuff I wish I could do. But I'm not able to do that, for various reasons.
I get it. And
the times, the co-parenting, and it's just a lot. So, you got to find your different ways of, reference to discipline. That phone is a major thing now.
Take it away.
That phone is a major thing.
You remember when your Nintendo got taken away? It's the same thing.
Those timeouts. Those long talks, and those you can't go here, and you can't, those things. I wish it was I wish I could add some of that other stuff that I was that I was dealing with too, because those things really helped shape me and my brothers, and my sisters. But that's how it is for me now. I became comfortable with that I cannot raise my daughter like I was raised. Because like I said, I'm in a co-parenting, situation. And then the times are different, and then I'm just not the same person that my father was. Yeah. I had to accept that. Because like I said, I could only see parenting from the lens of what I experienced, of what my father did. But I was thinking about it from a father with his son. It's very hard for me to see what my father did with my sister.
Yeah.
because he said my sister was like an angel.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter ain't no angel. That's my baby, but she ain't no angel. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it is what it is. You know, she's not bad at all.
No, yeah.
She just, you know, she's not
a teenage girl.
Yeah. She you know, it's funny. I named her after my sister passed away. You know, my sister actually passed away when she was 13 years old.
Oh wow, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm good with it. But yeah. So she's not my sister either. You know. So I have to accept all that. But I named her after my sister. Her middle name is after my sister. Okay. You know. So hopefully she has that angel spirit in her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So saying all that, Kwame. Sometimes we like to ask our fathers questions on what would they rather do with their child, your daughter. So we call it this or that. Would you rather spend a night in with your daughter watching a movie, you know, whatever, board game in the house, or would you rather do something outside like camping or amusement park, a movie, something like that, outside in the theater? What would you rather do?
I mean, I love taking my daughter out, you know, her getting dressed up. I remember, matter of fact, when was this? Easter, she had a denim outfit on. She had a white jacket, some blue jeans. And I said, I got a white jacket. I got blue jeans with rips in it. Let me go put that similar outfit on.
Oh,
so we actually went out. Yeah, we was twinning that day.
Oh, that's cool.
And we went to the Sugar Factory. That was a great, amazing experience. Took some pictures. My daughter actually watches all the same shows that I grew up watching.
She watching The Wire?
I don't know about that. I'm talking about those sitcoms.
Family Matters.
Yep, Family Matters. I don't know if she's seen Family Matters, Full House, but I've seen her watch Everybody Hates Chris, Smart Guy, Sister, Bernie Mac. I've seen all those shows, and I've seen her watching all those shows on her own, and she's cracking up, laughing. And I'm asking her questions, and you know, she even knows about Martin. Oh. You know, that's what I said. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I remember when my daughter was like 1-2 years old, and military time, I had the one mustache, no other facial hair. She was like, "You look like Martin." Oh. I literally remember that. You know, so I don't know. I think inside watching those shows, and it's something about being inside watching those shows and getting closer to her, you know, eating the popcorn and, you know, and laughing together. We both laughing at the same scene and things like that. It's something about that, you know, that I like, you know. And I learned a lot from them shows too, you know. Yeah.
I learned that the good guys, you know, if you like a Steve Urkel, you never get the girl, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Until you turn to Stefan.
Until you
turn into Stefan. Yeah. No, you're right. That's deep, man. That's deep.
Now Laura's the one got to come after him.
Oh,
so
man.
No, that's deep. That's deep. But
yeah, so inside.
To answer your question, I would say that. Well, it's a mixture of both because, like I said, man, it was a great feeling dressing up like her.
Yeah.
You know, so
how she took that. She loved that.
She was good with it.
Yeah.
She took it. She for one of the few times I ain't hear my daughter complain like, "Why you looking like me?" You know what I'm saying? You know, stuff like that. But she liked it, so ooh. I'm good with that.
Wow.
You know.
You go.
Yeah. Board games or video games?
Honestly, I don't do either. You know, but I would say
with her. That's what.
With her, I really don't engage in video games either.
Okay. All right, we skip it then. It's okay.
Yeah,
if you don't do it, we skip it.
Yeah. Okay.
Grilling in the backyard, cooking in the kitchen.
I cooked spaghetti. One of my go-tos. I'm not a cook. Okay. You know, one of my go-tos is spaghetti and shrimp, and me and my daughter cooked that together, and that was a great experience.
Yeah.
You know, so yes.
So rather do inside, not grilling outside.
I early on in my young 20s, I was working on becoming a grill master. And then I left it alone, you know, so I got to get back to that, you know, that whole grill master, I'm Unc, kiss the cook kind of, you know.
With the sandals on.
Yeah, exactly. Apron, you know.
Come taste this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right,
so
put on the grill.
I haven't done much of that in a lot of years. So I haven't really done that. So I would have to say the cooking inside, you know, yeah.
Okay.
When y'all talk to each other, is it mostly through like FaceTime or y'all text each other?
I would say FaceTime. You know, I'm really truly I'm one forcing her to do FaceTime. You know, like I said, she loves to give me these one word answers. You know, so at least with the FaceTime, you know, I could try to pull a little bit more out of her. You know, so I go to that.
All right. You got any more?
Yeah. I had one that I just thought about it. How's it traveling with her?
Oh, we just came from Puerto Rico, man. That was a great experience, man. You know, I
Yeah.
like to. I didn't, man. Like I said, doing things with your kids that you didn't get a chance to do. Like I said, it was four of us, you know, and you know, growing up, so we ain't really had family vacations. You know, I love traveling with my daughter because we travel to Maryland, go see my brother, hang out with her cousins. You know, she got cousins in D.C. too. I took her down south, South Carolina, where like I grew up going every summer. That was great. You know, I love traveling with her. You know, actually, I feel like that's a special bond me and her have. You know, I feel like she's a little nicer to me when we travel. You know what I'm saying? She's a little more understanding to, you know, the gems and the things I try to, you know, give to her when we travel. When she gets back home in New York, it's back to like, now I'm on my Brooklyn bullshit.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, yeah.
Work life balance with her. Like,
Work life balance. Work life balance is it's real. You know, you got to rush to go pick her up. You know what I'm saying? You know, shoot, in the ideal world, you know, I wouldn't work and I just support her in everything she wants to do. You know, so that's always something to work on. You know, work life. You know, yeah, that's always something to do. But you know, with the co-parenting, you know, that gets even more difficult because you gotta get the time when you get the time. You know, you gotta set up schedules. You know, around, you know, her mother's time and her time. So it's tough.
what would you say to a guy who is co-parenting and just got into it? What's the best advice you would give to him?
Be flexible. You know, like I said, constantly be ready to readjust. You know, adjust, readjust, be resilient, be calm. You know, accept that. You know, although you know because it's co-parenting, some people might say you're not a full-time dad. No, say you're a full-time dad even though you're co-parenting. You know, and you know, show up. You know, and still think abundantly. You know, because you know you got to provide whatever's required to provide, but then you also got to give, you know, great experiences. You know, when you're with her. You know, time. So don't think about an amount of money or anything like that. You know, think about experiences. You know, so that I would say that.
So, from your experiences, basic training, all the gems you got from your dad and your uncles, like it seems like to me that you're like a very disciplined person. How do you?
I would say I need to be more disciplined. You know, that's always the thing that I'm you know, I'm praying to the higher power to give me the ability to become more disciplined. You know, I wouldn't say that. I got a lot of work in that department, but you know, I'm getting the job done.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But I was gonna ask, like, I like your honesty. But how do you incorporate like giving that to like
to my daughter,
those gems to her?
Like I said, it gets hard with the co-parenting. You know, because you know, you're not always there, and you know, creating that level because dropping gems is all, you know, it doesn't always have you in the most comfortable space. You know, it doesn't always put her in the most comfortable space. So you got to be flexible. You got to make adjustments. You got to, and you got to accept that, like I said, when I was getting that type of discipline, you know, I can't give it to her the same way. And I have to accept that, you know, when I drop my gems, it's gotta come from a different place, you know, that she can hear it, you know, she can receive it, accept it, you know, and it doesn't turn her totally away from, you know, what you were actually trying to give her, you know, because, you know, it may be times where it might mess her whole day up, you know, but you don't want that. You want to be able to give her a gym, she internalize a gym, and she can move on like, you know, this is a great experience with dad.
You dreading the talk?
What talk is that?
What talk is that?
I don't know. What talk are you referring to?
So
Guess not.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
What talk
I
is
mean,
that?
you were a teenage boy before.
Oh well, man. Like I said, man, she's the first line of defense, you know. And on top of that, you know, I just gotta keep, you know, like we said, our children are gonna become independent. So, you know, it's just I gotta give her what I could give her to make the best decisions. But at the same time, you know, her mother is her, you know, that's her model. You know, so, you know, she has a great mother, you know, and her mother's gonna do her role as well to influence her and provide gems to her so that she makes right decisions when it's that time. And I have to trust that.
Yeah, that's definitely good. I was saying in that, I always say that to him because he's coming up on that talk thing, and they changed, you know, and you know, that's got to be not stressful, but
yeah, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah,
like
it
is
what it is.
It's not an easy thing to talk about.
I was a teenage boy once. And you know, just speaking from experience, but you rely on their mothers.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give her what I could give her, but then her mother gotta give her what she could give her too. You know, and she's more likely to probably listen to her mom than me. But I could, like I said, you know, I'm still gonna, you know, there's gonna be a point where she does come to me. I hope so. You know, and then I could further go into detail of what, you know, what I could tell her to be successful in that whole navigating, you know, socially, you know, so.
Cool. You say your father, I've seen your father in action, very Afrocentric, very this and that. Do you teach her about those things?
Oh, yeah. I try to make my daughter as enlightened as possible to be conscious about, you know, her ancestors, her people, you know, things of that nature. I remember we, for a while, every Martin Luther King Day, we would go to different events that cater to Martin Luther King Day that teach her different things, you know. I got footage of that too, so she can't.
You got a lot of footage, man. Your Google Drive is.
She was singing. She was doing a whole bunch of stuff, a part of Martin Luther King Day programs. Because I grew up doing that. My grandmother used to take me and my siblings to things like that. And then even like books, and you know, I told her be proud of her name. Tell her about her name has a meaning. You know, just you know, I just wanna help her prepare to be, you know, as confident as she can be as a, you know, young black woman, you know, growing up in this very, you know, very challenging society, you know, so. And then great thing is that she goes to a great school, you know, PS11, you know, she goes to a great school that is diverse, you know, and, you know, is ran by two great, you know, great women of color, you know, and, you know, and, you know, it's just a lot of positivity coming out of there. So, you know, it takes a village, you know.
It takes a village. So it definitely. Any dad hacks when you became a dad? You like, so examples like when I was changing diapers, I figured out how to basically carry a utility belt, and I'm like, oh, this is easier when you have your stuff next to you. Any dad hacks, even at this age, like talking to her, like don't talk to her at this time, but you talk to her at this time. So any dad hacks you could share with us, like anything that would help a father say, you know what, this is an easier way to get what you like. I think you already said it too, like don't ruin her day with advice or something like that. So I guess you already said it, the dad hack.
Oh yeah, man. Like you just learn a lot about. You think you know about women, and then you have a daughter.
Yeah.
You know, you think you know about the female, you know, about their nature, you know, but then you have a daughter, and you get a little bit more insight. You know. So that's what I would say. Just be patient. You know, you can't. You know, like I said, you know, I never was around young kids. You know, so. Or, you know, around, you know, babies, you know, young ladies. So it total out of my comfort zone when I had a daughter. So I had to learn to be more patient. And I'm constantly learning that, you know, make adjustments, you know, pay attention to mood, you know, things of that nature.
You want to be a father again?
Hey man, with the right woman, it's possible, man.
You know, like he's setting them up.
Exactly. He said, yeah.
Now, if you don't want to answer that question, that's fine.
Yeah. I ain't gonna go too crazy with that one.
Yeah,
you know.
All right, I'll leave that one out.
I ain't gonna go too crazy with that one. But yeah, man, the right woman is possible, man. Yeah. Like I told you, I used to want 6 growing up, but
nah, I don't want 6.
I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Did you grow up with a big family?
Now I got 2 sisters, but they both younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah, me, I'm
way younger than you?
3 years and 8 years.
Okay.
But we were 4. I'm the youngest, so it was 7 years apart. My older brother you met, he's 7 years older than me.
He's 7 years older than you?
Yeah, right. It was
God damn.
his genes,
he didn't look that old. He didn't look that much older than you.
He looks young. Yeah.
So he basically like raised you, helped you.
Yeah, he was like a father figure. And
because you know your pops wasn't always around, right?
My pops was around till like I was 12. Then he wanted to start a business in Nigeria, and he was back and forth till he died, basically. You know, so from 12 years old to 41, I was 41 when he passed 2 years ago. So it was my brother, and then my other brother who passed. He's 2 years older than me. So they were father figures, and like I said, I was saying about him. I learned a lot from Lito and them in high school because my brothers were older. You know, boys, they now grown men. They ain't trying to do all that. So I would learn, even though they were younger than me, him and his other boy, we're not boys, but how to be, you know, just being men. So with the blind leading the blind. Like, you had your friends with 2 or 3 years older, but they was blind too. You know, how to deal with women. And this is podcast stuff, by the way. How to deal with women, how to deal with money. We like, I'm teaching Lito, he teaching me. We don't know what the fuck we doing.
We figured it out.
So being a father, he's a father about 7 years before me or whatever I think it was. Yeah, 2015, I was 2022. I'm looking at him, and even with marriage, I'm like looking for my father.
I'm figuring that out too.
Yeah, I used to figure it out till today.
Ain't no handbook for none of it.
I don't know if I want to do that shit. This nigga Lito just had an argument. He can't just get up and leave. He got to argue. I'm like, I don't want to do that dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? At the time, then I meet her, and it's like, oh shit, okay, like this is cool. And then I did want to always be a father.
Yeah.
But I knew life would change. That shit is. I told you. Remember I said this different for me now. Like I used to just get up, go this and that. Nah, so you can't do that shit. Then the second one, I really can't do what I want. I used to bore whenever I want. I cannot bore when I want. Who's watching the kid? Who's this? And I'm not even a selfish person, but damn, I want to do some shit. So, you know, this growing up, we had 4 of us. It seemed like, you know, we was able to always do what we wanted to do. My sister, though, it seemed like she was an only child because she was the only girl. My father is very Nigerian. Like, it ain't daddy's little girl. It ain't none of that shit. It was her and my mom. And she grew up kind of outside the house because it wasn't no other daughter there. My father he wasn't at all like the lovey-dovey. Yeah, it was not like that. But my brothers, we sports, girls, this, that. So it felt like she was an only child. And even when she became a sister-in-law to her, they're close, you know. So it was good for that. But
how much older is she than you?
She's 6 years older than me because my brother's
so your brother's 7. The oldest?
Yeah, my brother's the oldest. She came a year and a half later, and then my other brother was 2 years older than me. So it just felt like she always felt like mom to me. Like it wasn't like now she feels like little sister because I've done so much, and she's like learning from me now. So it was 4 of us. Yeah, I know that was the question. So it was like, you know, we was our own little group. I didn't have cousins like that. You know, everybody got cousins, and I never grew up like that. You know, even with being co-parents, I didn't know what the fuck that was till I was older. Like, mom and dad is not home. Like, and then I met him. He's like an orphan.
Yeah, my parents passed away when I was 5 and.
Oh, so you was
10.
adopted?
No, I live with family, but it wasn't my parents. You know, it was just different experience. And my sisters, we didn't. So like after that all happened, we lived together for like a little while. But then one sister went to live with a godparent. The other one went with her father, so we was all separated. So
you grew up as the only child?
After like 14 years old, I was the only child.
I met him. Yeah. I met him, and his sister lived with him, but then she didn't. I was so fucking confused because I'd never seen that family dynamic. It took me like 2 years to ask him what happened to his mom, you know, because I was so scared to just ask, like, how you live with your grandmother? Like, and then actually it wasn't even me. It was my other boy. It was like, yo, what happened to your mom? Like one day, and I was like, yo, I've been waiting for that. And he told me he said what happened. And he said what happened to his dad. And then
did they die together?
No. They were separate. They wasn't together.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had so many questions from there. I'm just learning the world.
So,
right?
question: do you think that influences why you like? You see how you said, "Nah, I'm good with having one." Or you think that might influence it?
No. It's a lot of stuff. Like I said, my wife got scoliosis surgery, so carrying the baby is definitely not easy. She also has diabetes, so she was like she did
There's so
really
many factors.
yeah, she did really great like managing her diabetes when she was pregnant. But to do it again and to do it again with a kid already,
That's tough. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
it's just a lot.
I see it.
Yeah, I said I wanted 4 because that's what I grew up with. It was 4 of us.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
perfect. Like, I know what my mom, but god damn, even with a little money, my mom and dad had no money. The money part, all right, you're going to find money. But the time, maybe because that's all they did was be parents and they went to work and they had a good city job, and that's it. But all the entrepreneur, that shit is dead. I never saw my father do a hobby but lotto. Like, like all he did was the numbers. He ain't play sports. He ain't watch TV shows. But I'm like, you can't do none of the stuff you doing. Like, if you have 4.
Did he have any friends outside of the household?
Friends, yeah, like I have uncles and stuff.
Okay.
Like, but it wasn't like how. Well, one, there was no cell phone, so if he's on the phone, we all hearing what the fuck he's saying. It was a 2-bedroom apartment in Clinton Hill. It wasn't going to chill. It wasn't anything like that. But now, because we got like brunch parties and all the stuff we got going on, they just was parents. Mm-hmm. And that's why whatever my mom want to do, as tired as I just brought my mom home last night at 1 a.m. And whatever she want to do, she did a bid. She did a bid, like raising us. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I can't complain about shit because I have in-laws around the corner. Her parents never touched earth in this country. So she would tell my wife, like, I've cooked with your husband in one hand, his brother down there. I had the spoon. Why can't you cook like that? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, it's different now. They got nannies. We could afford a nanny, shit like that.
Nannies,
yeah. So when we talk about stuff like that, like, it's like it's a blessing. They had the same amount of time as us, 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But it's different, Mom. It's a different mentality. Like, I'm mad I can't fall asleep at midnight, and my mom probably doing homework and all that. It's tough. You know what I'm saying? So my thing was 4. I'm gonna have 4. And, oh no, we ain't do. And I'm also older. Like, let me my 4. My father, what?
No, I should tell you, like, yo, hurry up, man. You turn.
I've got time, man.
Time for what? So the thing was, my father.
Get that 4 out.
My father, the 4th one he had when he was 41. That's when I had my first one. So I'm like, nah, like, it's no time like that. But I'm good with 2. I'm good. I was good with 1. 2 was like bonus money. Like, you playing with?
You got a boy and a girl.
Yeah, the boy-girl dynamic is good. But if I do anything more after this, and it's also health with her, like, it's a whole story behind that.
Got you.
She's alive, and that could have went any way a few months ago. So count your blessings. Like, you ain't got to be having all these children.
Oh, no, yeah.
Me. I'm saying me. I was saying, like, you want to have 6?
Nah. I don't want to have 6.
No more?
Yeah, I ain't going to say no more, but I want to have 6.
Okay.
You know?
No, I'm saying you don't want to have 6 anymore.
Oh, no. I just, like you said, you wanted to have 4 because of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I it's probably because of that, too, because I have 4 in my household, and I have 2 sisters outside of the household, so that's 6.
Yeah.
But then I also always admired the Jackson 5.
Oh,
that was one of my favorite movies.
But it was like 9 of them, right?
Yeah, that was 10.
It was 10 of them. Damn,
but you know what I'm
Joe
sayon?
Was on his joint.
Yeah, that was the 5 though. You know what I'm saying?
On the 5. Yeah.
So one thing I can say though is, and my uncle talked about this too, that a lot of men, well, he always talks about the time of him growing up. A lot of men was having multiple kids and they would leave the household. He said, but those men who left the household, a lot of times they left because they thought about the finances and how more stressful it's going to be, but they don't realize that could be their wealth right there. Looking at the Joe Jacksons and the LeVar Ball and you know what I'm saying? Like, you could have a company. Yeah. You could have a company and these are your employees right here to build your business, build your wealth right here.
Yeah, I said that. I said that the other day, and I was like, people be like, oh, I got to go out there and earn. And I said, yo, now that I think about it, the time I pour in with them, because I have a little more time, that's like your wealth right there. But you don't see that in dollars. So people don't be like,
Exactly.
I could go out there and earn $1 billion. But when we talk to people, like we talked to our boy in Maryland, he was supposed to be on the show. He said, now looking back at it, all that overtime shit I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
All that, kids don't care about none of that.
No, they don't. Yeah, they just want you to be there and spend time with you.
Yeah.
Your bank account doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
And
as long as you can buy some ice
They
cream.
don't. Yeah, you know how many times I've heard people say, "Yeah, I didn't know I was poor though." You know, everybody had exactly what we had.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I said, yo, that's your wealth, and people don't see that. Like, oh, I gotta go out there work 18-hour days and this and that, and your kid don't see you at your recital or your bat playing ball. Like, I'd be damned if my son ain't introduced the ball from me. He already was watching the finals with this one going on with me, and he loves that. I mean, as much as I see, you know, or throwing the basketball. Like they gave me that, and I always say everything I've gotten, I should be able to give that and more now because I have more resources to my children. So I got that. I play for the Bonnies, you know, all that stuff. My mother coming from work, meet me here. Back then it was different. It's not, oh, where's your location and cell phone?
Me, like,
at 5:20, I'm going to be right here at this corner. I'm going to get on the D train with you, go to Church Avenue. We going to play. She did that after work while stuff in her hand. You think I'm going to complain about, oh, I got to drive back to Long Island. Then I got to get him. Oh, I don't want to be in traffic. Nah, she did. I remember stuff like you said. Nala's going to remember all that stuff she playing, dress up and all that. We twinning and all that stuff. I remember her, like just even now, groceries in hand. She getting that on the train. She didn't even go home yet.
Yeah.
So how's she going? Watch a TV show or do something for herself. She never did her hair, stuff like that.
That's what he said. Don't forget where you came from.
I ain't going to Jeff though. Like I ain't doing that. Like, yo, funny story. You heard stories about Jeff growing up. You never went over there. You never got.
I didn't know where Jeff was.
Now I heard stories
no
and I
idea.
heard like, yo, Westinghouse was like us, like that school you don't want to go to, right? Jeff was like, nah, but you heard about that school, Jeff. What was it, Thomas Jefferson? My mother said you're not going there. Like you hear streets like Livonia.
So you want me to tell you something too? One of the reasons why my pops ended up sending me there is because he was the PTA president there. My brother was there.
Okay.
Oh,
my pops became the PTA president
in high school.
In high school,
Wow.
So when I came there, he was a PTA president. He would have PTA meetings in my house. So you know, if something, you know, that's what he lived. He truly lived by that. Doesn't matter where you at, it's what you do there.
It's what you do there.
You know? So
he was about that.
That's what he was.
So that's hold on.
I almost went to Paul Robeson High School.
I went to Robeson.
You went to
my
Robeson?
first year. Yeah, I played JV there.
Yeah,
you played with
Major. He was my gym teacher. He was my gym teacher. Yeah,
that's a crazy
he's
story.
My gym teacher.
Yeah. You know Major. Yeah, that was a crazy story. But see, Robe
was fire.
Almost went to Boys and Girls.
Robe was fire.
I was a day away from
I
home.
wanted to go to those schools, man.
Yeah?
I mean, I wish I stayed in Robe. Robe was fire.
Yeah?
Robe was good with ball.
Exactly.
Yeah, you talking about for ball.
Okay.
So, saying all that, Gaddy, it was a good conversation today. I don't know if we missed anything. We did this or that, but I think we did enough of that.
Yeah.
Just any thoughts on being a father, being a father figure? Anything you want to say before we go?
Well, how about this? While you think about it, is there anything that that changed, like becoming a father, that changed you?
Yeah, man. I never thought I'd be a girl dad, especially as the first.
I was gonna say when you found out she was pregnant, you wanted a boy.
Of course. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I end up being like this with my father. You know, it's funny. I didn't say this earlier. Growing up, there wasn't many fathers on my block. You know, and so many of my friends, you know, didn't have their father around. And me and my siblings, we'd be like, damn, we can't stand this guy. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, he walk in the house, we all be up watching wrestling after. We walk in the house. Soon as we hear the door, we all scatter. You know, I act like I'm fake sleep. He come open the door, get up, go wash the dishes. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. He had me up to 2, 3 in the morning making sure that I wash those dishes. And I can't go back to sleep until then. You know, just all doing chores. One of my friends describes my father like Lawrence Fishburne in Boys in the
Hood.
Hood.
Oh,
That's like the perfect example of who my
He-
father was.
yeah.
He was conscious. He taught them about real estate and being a black person and this and that, and he taught them about chores. And he said, if I don't make you do these chores, you're gonna end up turning out like this guy. A lot of your friends are gonna turn out, not knowing how to deal with responsibility and that. That's exactly how my father was. So I always thought I'd be prepared to deal with a young man growing up. Even as an educator, I'm typically with young boys. You know what I'm saying?
You got the curveball.
And here comes a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Life threw you a nice
so
curveball.
yeah. So it's a constant learning. In reference to being a girl dad. It's constantly learning.
So yeah, you
But like I said, as an adult, I became like this with my father. Like where we literally became like best friends. He'd check me. He'd check me from time to time, like, I'm still your father. I'm not your best friend. You know what I'm saying? He'd check me, but we became like this, and I was very fortunate of that, to have my time with him, and even my daughter. I remember before my pops passed away, and I'm still messed up in the head, like, nah, daddy, you're gonna make this. You're gonna beat cancer. You're gonna do this, do that. And I remember he stopped me. My daughter was there, and he was like, Nala's gonna remember me. And I'm there shaking up, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like why are you being weak? Never thought I'd see my father in that state, But he was right. She's gonna remember him. And my daughter actually, like I told you, the one words she be doing, she don't want to communicate with me and all that. When my pops died, she went up there and said a speech about him.
Yeah.
Which is like it lets me know that I'm influencing her because she sees me do speeches, But then on top of that, it lets me know that she's observing and listening as well to learn to appreciate, good people and remember, her ancestors and remember her family. So that's a blessing right there. So
The legacy continues.
Exactly.
The legacy continues. She actually got to know her dad, and I think that's two things. I'm sorry, her grandfather. That's two things. I've always said my daughter was born, and she didn't get to. She's gonna have those questions one day, and I'm sure you've been through this. And it was just a few months, and then he died. Actually, it was a year. Actually, they FaceTime one time. She will never remember this, but he wasn't even in the right mind when they FaceTime. But that's what kind of regret I have because I waited so long to have a kid that you don't have older grandparents too. But I doesn't mean have a kid young either. I gotta think about that stuff. But as my mom is still here and her other two grandparents, you start to think about that, and you make sure. I would say to just advice to any men, you treat, especially if you have a girl, show them how a fucking man is supposed to work, how it's supposed to be. Like I have no apologies on being a man, especially in this day and age, showing them how a man gets up and be a man,
Exactly.
And then the other thing is making sure she understands how a relationship, even if you're co-parenting, how it's supposed to look. Mm-hmm. Respect, I'm sure. You're a very respectful guy. Gaddy's a very respectful guy. And even if you're not with the woman, this is how it should look, right? I'm modeling everything for her. And then the last thing is how to grandparents. Like, I'm still your father. Like, my mother's still my mother. She's much smaller than me now. But for me, growing up, she felt like she was 7 feet. My mom, this overarching woman who I couldn't get away with nothing. And I do the same thing you would say. Why my mom gotta be up in the school? Why she gotta be at the PTA meetings? Why we going to Saturday school? Nobody go to Saturday school.
Exactly.
Why we doing this? And why we doing that? And if she didn't do that, I swear I wouldn't be where I was today. Because there's like nobody on the block doing handing stuff out to homeless. Like, why are we doing this, mommy? Yo, it's cartoons upstairs. And then it taught me how to be the person I am. So I would give any advice to any men doing that. Like, yo, show them how to be a fucking man. None of these guys, like Joe Budden said, deadbeat dads got it good.
Or couch potato. I'm trying to tell her, don't be a couch potato, man. Don't accept a man being a couch potato either.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, my gym is in my house. So I make sure that I'm working out when she's around.
Exactly.
So just so she can see me working out.
Exactly.
She see me working out. I do the grocery shopping. I don't let us run out of anything.
Yeah.
I'd be like, and I tell her, I'm like, you make sandwiches for lunch. You run out of cheese. You got to tell me, right? So I could go get it. As soon as you tell me, I'm gonna go. Oh, we need something. Let's go. Let's go get it. But that's the thing. Like being responsible, being active. Like these are all the things that you need to look for when you grow up and you're looking for somebody.
Damn, that's a fact.
Nala and Amina's standard is gonna be high as shit.
They should be.
That's a fact, man. Yeah. Like that. It's in this day and age. There's so many women taking care of men that that's my biggest. That's one of my biggest fears for my daughter to run into a guy that she's taking care of him. He ain't doing much. He on the couch.
Yeah.
He just So that's one of my biggest fears.
A lot of times when I see situations like that, I be like, what is her father thing? That's what I be thinking.
Man. Yeah, how did that happen? Like what's going on? Like what's being here? You hear it all the time. So I have those candid conversations with men and say, son, you're not being a man. We talk all the time candidly. You bugging. Like if you can't have friends that tell you bugging, that's not your friends. That's just dudes you hang around with and do dumb shit with. You know what I'm saying? So, saying all that, saying it was a good conversation, Gaddy. And like I said, I think he asked you a question. Anything you want to say before you go? Anything you want to plug? Anything, you know what I'm saying?
Hey man, I just like to say thank you to you brothers for inviting me here.
Appreciate
to talk about a great topic.
Sir,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Fatherhood, you know what I'm saying? It's not. We need to have more conversations like this. You know what I'm saying? Where black men could come together. Black men, period.
Yeah.
Men, period. It's funny that you say that. The other day I watched Jay-Z. Y'all ever see the footnotes? Jay-Z footnotes, the 444 footnotes?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, y'all gotta watch that, man.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't know what y'all doing after this. We should actually watch that.
You should watch
like,
it. We go upstairs, watch
super
it.
dope.
I think I got some.
I know y'all know the 444 album.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Well, watch when we watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. I literally watched it the other day, but I'll watch it again. You know what I'm saying? It's super dope. It literally breaks down every song and where he was at. But it's a group of men, all celebrities,
Never heard this,
and they all speaking on their experiences. You'll see it.
And we grew up, the crazy thing is we grew up in the hip-hop culture, the sports culture, right? That's literally our second dad that raised us, the hip-hop culture.
Yo, man.
And watching Jay-Z's maturation
exactly.
from Big Pimpin'.
Yo,
to
watch when we go upstairs and watch this. You're gonna see they talk about all of this. They can talk about all of this.
And it's like, that's how we matured too. Like, it was about getting money, which we thought would bring women. And the more women you had, the more you look like the man. To I'm a dad. Like, I can't be bringing any woman around my daughter, even if I'm dating her. There's a certain line, standard that I would never, do that. Or even me, like, or even road rage. That's my new thing. Like, you can't, Daddy, why are you yelling in the car? And I'm like, damn, I can't be turning up like this all the time. Like, she got to know this is a certain point. Yeah. So, just the maturation of us. But like I said, this has been the Daddy Issues podcast. Lito, anything?
Yo, like we always say, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that they tell you to do at the end of the video.
Yeah.
Ola's going to put something right here.
Yeah, something right there. Definitely his hashtag will be Kwame Powers, but you'll see it down there. Hit him up. You got any, he's a good speaker, by the way. Anybody need him to come speak at graduations, bar mitzvahs, recitals? Kwame's a great, great guy, and I'm so happy you were able to come through, man.
I appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
Daddy Issues podcast. We out.